AJ with a 7th-round KO over Robert
Woo!
Helenius, the big right-hand Aussie coming in over the top. Joshua, before that, been toying with him, boxing behind the jab, trying new things. He's work in progress. Things take time. These careers aren't built overnight. This guy, I tell you what, he's improving nicely, showing a few new things. Got the guy out of there, former world title contender. What more can you ask for from a prospect, Aussie?
He's getting new wrinkles as he gets wrinkles.
I was going to say,
if he keeps it up, mate, he's going to be a 2-time unified champion in no time.
Exactly that. I mean, the commentary itself is just a whole different topic of conversation. But to dub him, a work in progress. I'm sorry, you just can't be calling a guy who's not just won only an Olympic gold medal. If it was his 3rd fight turning over, then yeah, fine, that's no problem. But he's won world titles, he's unified world titles. So to then go, he's a work in progress against the Nordic Nightmare, who is just a shadow of what the shadow he already always was, is just, pathetic, really. I thought last night's performance left probably more questions than answers. I thought it wasn't a good display. I thought the finish itself was fantastic. It was emphatic. It was a highlight reel KO. No problem with that. But aside from that, I do not think it was a good performance whatsoever. Joshua, he boxes scared. For me, he is done at any sort of world level. They're talking about he wants to box 2 times this year before boxing Wilder in January. They need to park that Deontay Wilder fight, or they're using that as very much a cash-out fight, because Wilder will take 2-3 rounds tops to get Joshua out of there. Helenius bust him up last night. He had a bloodied nose. He had bruised eyes. Can you imagine if Deontay Wilder... Well, sorry, not if. When Deontay Wilder lands. I'm seeing criticism last night about Deontay Wilder's not very good, and he's poor, and he went life and death with Ortiz. Well, I'll tell you what, for a guy who's not very good, he's got the best right hand in boxing. And considering, we all know he's going to throw it, he still sets people up in a brilliant way. And he'd be able to do that to Joshua as well. I just think Joshua, ever since that Andy Ruiz one fight from where he was, he was badly hurt. Ever since then, he's just boxed completely different. No fighter wants to get hit. But you're in the fight game knowing that you may well get hit, and you're probably going to have to take punches to eventually win. And Joshua just can't deal with getting hit. It was not a good display. I get Helenius, they've not necessarily planned for that. But off that performance last night, Dillian White is shot to pieces as well. But I genuinely, off the back of that, gave White, and I would get, he's juiced up now, but White had a legit chance last night off Joshua's performance, because he is just shot to bits. And who are they going to put him in with now? He wants to box twice more. Who are they honestly going to put him in with? The shadow that is Derek Chisora, that was on the undercard, who barely got a victory over Gerald Washington. Who else are they going to look at? Because anybody live, and they're going in there thinking that they can not only beat Anthony Joshua, but they can knock him out. It was not a good display. It was a bad night, really. The crowd were booing as well, which we've not heard that at Joshua fights before, booing in round 1, round 2, round 3, constantly until the knockout came. So, yeah, it was a bad display, a bad performance, fantastic finish. But aside from that, it's not one for the history books. And again, it's probably back to the drawing board. And why try and reinvent the wheel? Joshua had a style from where he came out. He was a bully. He actually used to be able to put decent combinations together. He could do that, and he was quite quick in doing that. That is just non-existent now, and he's trying to pick these shots. He's trying to be this, potential magician in the ring, setting people up, and it just removes all the good things that he is good at. So, yeah, it was not, not a performance for the ones that are going to attract, fans, and essentially give you the confidence that Joshua can operate at world level. I think he's far from that. And I know Joe Joyce got beat off Zhilei Zhang, but I'd take Zhilei Zhang to beat Joshua. I'd still take Joe Joyce to beat Anthony Joshua as well. And off last night as well, even though Dubois has shown his vulnerabilities, I think Dubois, pretty much front foot style from where he's throwing big shots. You just don't see that anybody who puts the pressure on Joshua, you feel like they've got a chance of knocking him out, because he just doesn't know what to do. He doesn't like it. And Yeah, it's a bizarre one, really, for a guy who's had so much success early on. He just looks done, and you couldn't argue in saying that if he was to retire, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad decision.
Maybe Andy's being called for there. It definitely is if the mask has been ripped away. I don't know whether I feel sorry for him as such, but he's such a bizarre character now. Some of the things he's coming out with in his interviews, he went wandering off around the ring after he knocked the guy out. It's like some of it's forced. He made this strange comment about carrying the heavyweight division on his back, even though he's got no belts. I mean, what's going on with AJ mentally? Is he really that fragile?
I don't know, mate. I mean, only he knows that. I mean, we can only see what's happening in public at the end of the day, and some of it has been a bit of a red flag. Obviously, the situation in Saudi after the Usyk rematch was like it was quality, at the time. But in hindsight, you kind of think to yourself, somebody needed to step in there at that point, and not one of his so-called fucking mates stepped in there to save the guy for himself and that. And here they are, however many months later, after a pathetic performance against the boogeyman of the division, as Spiddle called him, Jermaine Franklin, and then that there last night. And now we've got all these fucking minions coming out trying to do down Deontay Wilder and his boxing ability or lack thereof or his resume. Let me tell you something. Deontay Wilder can do what Helenius did there last night, but they at a fucking far higher level. He's got better footwork, he's got a better jab, and by fuck can he cut the right hand loose when he wants to. And you see that jab was causing Joshua all sorts of problems there last night. His face was all busted up, his nose was bleeding, or maybe it was his mouth. His lips were all kind of swollen, his eyes were looking a bit kind of puffy and that as well. At one point in that fight, Joshua felt he had to step into a couple of shots, and he missed that right hand at one point as well, but the right was on the wall for Helenius. That chin was in the air all night, and the way he was stepping back from it, and his balance wasn't great either, to be fair. And I don't think he was really throwing the right hand to great effect. He was checking it to the body a little bit. I don't know if he's maybe got a problem with it. He was due to go on holiday to Lapland. Well, fucking Joshua put him there, actually, to be fair. That was some fucking knockout. And one thing about Helenius, man, he gets knocked out pretty well. So that's a plus. But other than that knockout, that card was complete dog shit as well. This for Joshua. I agree with what Ozzy was saying. I think Wilder does beat him. Obviously, it might be a question or might be a fact. It's like maybe a matter of who lands first against those two. I just don't.
I'm not sure, Andy, because I don't think Joshua's the big, massive one-punch knockout artist. He gets on top of you, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Beats you down, grows in confidence. He hits you hard. Guys fold mentally. I'll come to the question in a minute. But as for Wilder, he's got that just one-punch knockout power. All of a sudden, bang, you're gone.
I mean, the thing is, his jab's underrated as well, mate. His IQ's a bit underrated at the same time. I mean, he can box when he wants to or when he has to. And we all know he's wanting to cut that hand loose and he's wanting to go out in his shield. So it is, again, if he's still got that ambition at the end of the day, then obviously, but I mean, what more ambition do you need? The guy got fucking cocked about by Eddie Hearn and Joshua in contract talks that old daddy Bazza Hearn had to try and save and try to lowball him and all that sort of stuff. So he should hang out. Hopefully we see it at some point because it's been talked about for long enough. I think the Fury Joshua fight is gone. I think at this point, if they are really interested in making that fight, I mean, where would they hold it? I think it was Saudi Arabia. I mean, wouldn't they be held in the UK?
Yeah, that's what they've said.
I'd be
Yeah,
Saudi.
Saudi.
They've got this skills challenge on board. Apparently, it sounds a bit like a fake Sabutio, doesn't it? Skills challenge, but they're the money men, as I'm told.
Skills challenge, is that the promotional company that Del Boy Chisora's been?
Yeah, something like that.
I seen something getting put on Twitter there last night by our man RJ, who seems to be kind of like, our company's house registers and that type of thing. Anyway, Chisora was attached to that. But yeah, look, it wasn't great, to be fair, mate. I mean, look, he was chasing a guy over the ring. You got, we'll mention Bellew in his segment at the end of the day, man. But that was just embarrassing. The whole thing was embarrassing. The whole setup. You've got commentators trying to talk to each other in between fights, and you've got music blaring at the tap blaring, and you can't even hear anybody what they're saying. They can't even hear each other. Actually, they can't even hear the questions getting asked to them. It was just shocking all around. Apart from the knockout, that is. And did I get me started on Conor McGregor, man? My God.
They try to be too innovative with the commentary sometimes. They try to come up with all these fancy new ideas. And I can understand you have to move on, but they try to bring in things that they don't necessarily need. Stick a good commentator on, a good analyst with him, someone to total the scores up, and let's all move on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird, like, man. It's just, and again, he's a professional commentator at the end of the day, but I still just don't get that feeling with our man for the, what's his name, lead commentator,
Mike Costello.
Mike Costello. Sorry, I forgot his name. It's right out of my head there.
Mm.
Cheers for it. It just doesn't seem to work with him on TV, mate. We've been saying it for a wee while now, but he has got the voice for live blow by blow on live radio. If you want a live commentary on that, then it's got to be something you've got to be listening to rather than watching. Because I just don't think we see what's happening, and he seems to try and portray it as some sort of exciting moment or whatever it is, and that But it's things like that. Just the whole production, as Paul Webb would say, was shit.
Andrew Thickett there, Ozzy says, Helenius has had a fascinatingly odd career. Good wins over Peter, Brewster, Tepper, Kovnacki. Gifted a win over Chisora, a meaningless loss to Wilder. Fought White on 1 week's notice without a camp and stunned him in the second, before gassing and sitting on the ropes for the rest of the fight. Fighting Washington whilst ill and still outboxing him before getting spectacularly KO'd. Think he will be well respected once he's fully retired. Fair play for Andrew for giving that career summation. At the end of the day, when I watch Helenius, he is decent, he's solid. He's not great, is he?
No, I'll tell you what he is. He is a solid European level fighter. Those wins that he's got there, they are good European, level wins. And he's had opportunities at world level and fallen short. So that is his level. But in all honesty, had he have had full camps against Dillian White and Anthony Joshua, it's not unthinkable to think he could have beaten Dillian White, in all honesty. He gassed and he buzzed him in the second, and we know White isn't great. And then not only that, he blew up last night. He was exhausted. That camp that he probably prepared for last night. For the fight that he had last weekend against that 6-0 no mark. He's realistically probably not trained, but he's not had a full intense camp. Probably proper sparring, intense sparring. Had he have had a full camp last night, we might well have been talking about how Joshua may not have got him out there, or it could have been even, worse times for Joshua. So yeah, well, we're not here to talk about, how good Robert Helenius is. He's a solid European level fighter. He's decent fundamentals. I watched the Kaunaki 2 and 1 fights, and he showed that he has got parry. He's a big lump as well. He's a big bloke, and yeah, he's a guy that will walk away and can look back at his career and think, yeah, he's achieved good things in the sport. But one thing I was touching on, I was going to say before about, they were saying about Anthony Joshua, is that I think in the Wilder fight, one thing that what I've seen recently is when Joshua is hurt, he struggles to hide it. And he stays hit as well. He's not got, the powers of recuperation, like Tyson Fury has, from where he can clearly get buzzed, but he seems to recover quite quickly. Whereas with Joshua, he stays hit, not just for 1 round, but it could be for 2 or 3 rounds. Now, if you're going to stay hit against someone like Deontay Wilder, you just don't stand a chance, and he's not going to let you off the hook with that. And last night, I don't think he was well and truly buzzed or rocked by Helenius, but he was certainly tagged, and we didn't see that, where he was hurt. But it showed against Vladimir Klitschko. He stayed hit, for a couple of rounds. I think, it was one of, a really good round from where Joshua was just done at the end of the round, lying on the ropes, but he stayed hit, and it took him a little while to recover. And I think more so now, that is what is going to stop him, against. I find it absurd, really, that they're looking at this Wilder fight. But then if you remove it, who else can they go for? Because they're not going to go for Alexander Usyk 3. It's pointless. And the Tyson Fury fight seems out the window. So bizarrely, for the name that Joshua is, from a big fight perspective, it kind of is Wilder or bust, because who else do you line him up with? There's no one who you look at and think, that's a big fight. I think if Joe Joyce maybe goes and beats Zhilei Zhang, it wouldn't surprise me if Warren and co get on the bandwagon for potentially to throw Joe Joyce into the mix. But
he has to fight Wilder next, mate, because it's the only fight that gets him back into a shot for a world title fight. He has to fight and beat him, because I see Wilder's ranked 1 and 2 or from some of the 2 or 3 organisations.
Yeah.
So you just know if the fight gets made, they're going to be multiple eliminators for world title fights.
Well, that McKean Hrgovic fight last night, I'm pretty sure was a final eliminator or something like that for the IBF.
Hergovich has been waiting for 3 years for his IBF
Yeah,
shot.
well, he's shit as well.
He should be waiting another fucking 3 years for it after that fucking push
exactly.
last night.
Yeah. So he's done. But no, I mean, but what I found bizarre was that he wanted to box twice more before boxing Wilder in January. So we're talking quick turnarounds here. You know, we're in August now. What they're going to be looking at?
Joshua wants 2 more fights.
Yeah. Which I thought I can't work at the timings. What they're going to
No,
go.
this is just like Fury saying he was going to fight 5 times in a year. He's absolutely full of shit.
But again, though, who are they going to put him in with? Who can they possibly put him in with?
Well,
Because if they're going up to that Wilder fight, they need somebody who is completely risk-free now. Even then, Jermaine Franklin was. You looked at it, was a risk-free fight, and even then, he won rounds, which is bizarre. So I don't think there's anybody now, unless they put him in with someone like
Kaunowski.
Caballero was going.
Yeah, it'd be someone like a Kovnacki. I can't see McGregor, Andy. I know he's limited, but he'll just come at AJ like a maniac, man. That'd be the worst fight for him, I think.
Caballero was wanting the fight before Helenius. Actually, I've seen that on social media kicking about.
I can't see that personally. I think that
run around. You want safe opponents. That's your kind of that's your level you're looking at, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They
Matt
can't.
Butters says Aussie, sorry, they'll clear White, quote unquote, and make that fight again. I tell you what, I would not be in Gibraltar.
It wouldn't surprise me, but I just think timings work against it for happening, and it wouldn't surprise me if Joshua just doesn't entertain Dillian White again, and also as well that we spoke about it last week. Exactly, he isn't trustworthy. How can you trust him? But also as well, is Eddie Hearn going to want to invest money into another promotion from where White may well pop? And he's come out and said, I don't really know Dillian that well. I think that's what they certainly say, which is bizarre. I think Dillian White's headlined 7 pay-per-views for Eddie Hearn, and Eduardo doesn't know him that well. So
he'll be saying that in 10 years when Chisora's brain's mushed. He'll be like,
I don't know
remember Derek, well.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, mate, Derek won't remember him either by that point.
But yeah, so I can't see who they're going to put him in with next. I believe DAZN are pushing for pay-per-view dates, and they want more pay-per-view dates. And aside from Joshua, who are the pay-per-view stars in that Matchroom camp? Nobody really. Conor Benn, realistically, where's he at? But it's true though, isn't it? From a name perspective, probably Conor Benn. Who else is there? Nobody else. And Ben can't even box at the moment. So it's interesting times for Matchroom, and they made that big jump going up to the zone, and you cannot say it has paid off. It just looks like it's a complete mess, and they just keep digging bigger holes, and the zone are bleeding money, and they said they were not going to do pay-per-view, and now they made the big U-turn, and it's all about pay-per-views now. The zone are probably making more dough from this Misfits boxing than what Matchroom are presenting.
Increase.
Yeah, exactly. 100% increases, no rewards for the loyal subscribers that started off from day one.
Not the Women's Champions League they were saying last night, Ozzy.
Having to get KSI promos for you to kill the title. Oh man, fuck.
Exactly that. So it's interesting times, but for Joshua, yeah, I mean, look, fair play if they go and take that Deontay Wilder fight, fair play. But Wilder last night should be looking at that, feet up, whiskey in hand, thinking, this is a 2 or 3 round demolition job for me, and I think it will be emphatic. It will not be, it'll be a huge KO. Just don't see how Joshua avoids that right hand when you're getting tagged by. I'm seeing all this nonsense, by the way, of Helenius is a big awkward guy and he's always presented problems for people. I'm sorry, Gerald Washington's an ex-NFL guy and a glorified doorman. Yes, he was getting outboxed, but fuck me, he brutalised Robert Helenius. And Joshua, yes, he did do that, but I know we spoke about Helenius as being this European level fight, but if Joshua is what people think he is, he should have had no problems with a guy like that last night. And let's have it right, he had all sorts of problems at times.
Matty, let's have it right. Whenever I see Robert Helenius fighting, I always think of former panel member Gabe. He was a big proponent of Helenius. Robert came in just under 250 pounds last night, and I wonder if Gabe is maybe over or under. But anyway, I digress.
He's a half Lewis.
Exactly. He's more like De Juan Calloway. But I didn't think Helenius, Matty, was too bad of a replacement, considering it was short notice. There was only a week to get it sorted out. But I was in the minority, apparently, because there were haters on social media and on IFL TV and Fight Hype and where else who weren't too high on Helenius. Let's listen to one of them right now.
Deontay Wilder is going to fight Robert Helenius. Derek Chisora beat Robert Helenius with ease. Right? Didn't get the decision. Watch the fight.
Wilder was good the other night. Helenius is, maybe past his best.
He can punch. He's 6'8". He won at the weekend. Sent me a message straight after the fight from the changing room. I actually think it's a tricky fight. I think it's quite a dangerous fight.
Woo! Dangerous! It woke up still dangerous!
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that last line as well, from where Helenius sent him a message. Helenius came out in an interview and said that his manager approached him and said, "We'd had an offer from Eddie Hearn. What do we think?" And Helenius' first words were, "I want to go on holiday to Lapland. I'm not going to take the fight." So that's quite impressive that he bangs out this 6-0 guy in Eduardo, saying he sent him an immediate message when the main man, Nordic Nightmare himself, has said the complete opposite. So it's yet another little lie from the spin doctor, Master Eduardo himself.
Old Goebbels, Matty there, old Goebbels.
Aussie, we've got the receipts running about these corridors, mate, and we're just issuing them out just now.
And that's what Eduardo dislikes as well, doesn't he? People always look for videos and things to pull me up on. Yeah, because you're a compulsive liar. Realistically, I've nothing against a promoter trying to promote a fight, but when you tell as many lies and different stories, they're going to catch up on you. And sadly for Eddie, he can't keep out of the camera, and he loves the camera, so ultimately he is going to get caught up on everything he says.
Well, if you read between the lines a little bit, Steve, I think you got to see, honestly, I think that Helenius, especially on short notice, is a perfectly fine fighter for Joshua to take on. I think it was a terrible fighter for Deontay Wilder to take on. Because I think there are levels to this, and I think Deontay Wilder is a couple levels above Anthony Joshua. So fair play to Eddie. He said it all without saying it specifically. Terrible, very lackluster performance, let's say, by AJ, but great stoppage victory. We'll see if he gets one more in before Wilder. But Wilder is going to be going into this without being in the ring for about 15 months or so at that. So that's the one thing I say might work in Joshua's favor, is just staying active recently.
Regarding the Deontay Wilder fight, Matty, people are talking it up. It looks like it's going to happen, hopefully. I know it's simplistic to just say Wilder with his one-punch knockout finishing instincts, whenever he lands, the fight's going to be over. But I just think he's going to land at some point. And this current version of AJ, the AJ version that fought Klitschko and that went in up to the Andy Ruiz, and he said John Ruiz, the Andy Ruiz fight, would have fought back and I would have given him a greater chance. But this current version of AJ, he's going to catch a shot at some point, and Wilder's going to finish him. It comes down to mentality for me. And Joshua's lack of confidence at the moment against a guy who is so confident he borders on delusion. A guy who has talked away every loss to Fury. He's talked conspiracy theories. He believes in his power so much. He is absolutely mentally deluded. There's no way he's going to come in against Joshua and not land that right hand at some point. I honestly cannot see anything but a Wilder knockout, Matty.
Heavyweight boxing is the theater of the unexpected, and I hesitate to say that he has no chance at all. I mean, he's a big man with a fair bit of experience, and he's got a few good punches in his arsenal. But to land those shots, he's going to have to go through fire. And I tend to think, Steve, the toughest thing for him is that if Wilder chooses to keep him at the end of his punches, he's going to be able to do just that. It's because not only is Joshua not quite as long as Deontay Wilder, he doesn't seem like he's really committing to his shots fully anymore, where he's really punching through the target, getting his entire length into him. So I don't know. I feel like, especially if you look at that second Fury fight and what Wilder was doing to the body with that slick 1-2, do that a few times, you look upstairs, and it'd probably be night for AJ, much the way he did in Helenius.
Michael Thompson says, if AJ beats Wilder somehow, will it be Hall of Fame worthy? I tell you what, it'd be absolutely amazing. Win Silver Boxing there says, a few years ago, I'd have heavily favoured Wilder to beat AJ, but time waits for no man, and Wilder is older now. I favour AJ by late round TKO. With respect, Ozzy, I would disagree with that statement from Silver Boxing.
Massively disagree. Massively disagree. I'm with you. I just can't see any other outcome than than a Deontay Wilder knockout win. I just can't see how, off the performances that we've seen recently from Anthony Joshua, what gives you the confidence that he's going to go in there and, like you say, of course he can punch, but he's not got that. It's rare, last night's win against Helenius, that's probably the first time he's really iced somebody with one shot in a long, long time. And we've seen Helenius that when he does get knocked out, they're all pretty similar stoppages. Whereas with Wilder, every one of it is. And look at the way he knocked Helenius out. He was on the back foot, and it was like it was by accident. He was just trying to get out the corner. It was a short right hand. The next thing, Helenius is just corpsed on the floor and doesn't know what day it is.
First knockout in 3 years.
Yeah, so is that what it was for Joe? Yeah, I mean, yeah, Pulev was, yeah. Fair enough, he's boxed Usyk twice, so I understand that. But yeah, he's not got that power. And I think with Wilder, I don't see, with the way Joshua stays hurt, and I'm not saying he's got a glass chin because he's not, but he stays hurt, and Wilder will just, will make you pay for that. And his power is elite level. I think, I genuinely believe he's got the best right hand in boxing, and, time waits for no man. But one thing that Wilder hasn't done is, yes, he had 2 big fights with Tyson Fury, but I don't really think he's been, but they weren't sustained beatings where he's come out of there, and the knockouts. So yes, he was knocked out, particularly in the third fight. But again, I owe that to a lot of exhaustion more than anything. He looked shattered, but he went toe to toe with Fury, and he was still had power even when he was exhausted. So no, I just don't see any other victory aside from a Deontay Wilder win. And from a betting perspective, the bookies have got it razor close. Wilder's a 5-6 favourite, and Joshua's an even money.
You're fist fucking me.
So yeah, I'm surprised how close that is actually.
That line's got to move heavily by the time the fight gets there. I mean,
you would
there's got
think
to be
so,
some people jumping on that.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, to get what I was gobsmacked. I thought I'd see Wilder at like 1-3-ish, 1-4. But to get anywhere near even money, I think is a fantastic price, because if that fight was announced tomorrow, I think you'd see a lot of people investing in Deontay Wilder to win.
See, to be honest, Josh was going to be fucking sweating that drug test result coming back after swigging that pig swill at Conor McGregor's there last night. Eh? Anything could be put in that fucking drink, man.
In the world's creamiest stout.
What a fucking helmet that McGregor is, man. Another thing as well. Eddie, Dane, good evening, Eddie. Dane, Uncle Frank there last night, making sure that fucking card dragged out until the fucking almost. I was begging for a knockout, man, so I could go to my bed. That's fucking 11:15. The main event still hadn't started.
Yeah, it was a bad one.
I went to bed. I was getting tagged in from you, Andy, asking about post-fight pods and stuff this morning. Sorry. No chance.
That wasn't happening there.
I was in bed by that point.
It's fucked up. Like, here we are, like, we were thinking, great, Helenius is stepping in and saving this card. And then when it all finished, like, fuck, Helenius stepped in and he saved this card.
Exactly, mate. And I think after having to witness what we witnessed on the undercard, you're like, fucking hell, really? As I said to Steve, that was before we started, that I somehow came out of that whole event there last night, having to get myself up this morning to watch and stuff in America, feeling fatigued.
You watched that whole thing, and then you ended up having to watch Valdez against.
No, I didn't watch the whole thing. I had suffered about the first 7 rounds of the Hergovich fight, and I went, "The fuck this, man!" And you think I was going to sit and watch 10 rounds of the Chisora? By the way, honest to God, I was raging at him with his ring walks. He took a fucking fortnight to get to the ring. This is about 10:15 at night. Still, they signed the main event. I'm like, this is going to go the distance and that. And he was awful as well. He couldn't throw a punch, can't pull a trigger, washed. Another one who needs, an intervention. Really, I mean, what are we going to do?
I dozed off somewhere during Hergovich and woke up somewhere during Chisora. So I didn't suffer.
Well, again, shout out to AJ. I've said it in the past, and I know the boys agree with me. For all of his deficiencies and his faults, he is genuinely in exciting fights. And even when he was struggling against Helenius, he was more exciting than those other numpties on the undercard. He did, just going back before I forget this point, Andy, to the Wilder fight. One of the boys is saying there about he did get the shit beaten out of him in those 2 Fury fights, especially the second one. But I think to beat Wilder, you've got to do what Fury did: put it on him, break his confidence, break his will. Joshua hasn't got that confidence himself.
No.
His soul's gone, man. He can't jump on Wilder. He can't do the things I don't think that you need to do physically and mentally to deter Wilder the way he did.
False confidence against real confidence.
He's not got the same height, reach, and boxing savvy basically on the inside to do what Fury could do. And also as well, Fury's got an additional 30 pounds on top of that.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was at that point, and he's still heavier than what Joshua is.
And he kept getting up. Wilder was putting him down, and he kept getting back up again.
I mean, it was, you're literally going to nail the guy at the floor. Now, again, there's only so many beatings like a man can take at the end of the day, but I still think, as I say, look at the success Helenius was having last night with a jab alone. I think Wilder's jab is very good, and he will look to throw the right hand behind it. Not so much like Helenius was in, like he was jabbing, it was causing Joshua a bit of problems, and then he was shoveling the right hand in as an uppercut shot to the body. Wasn't really throwing a lot of headshots. There was a few here and there that it kind of made the impression that maybe he's got a problem with the right hand, possibly. I don't know, but Wilder will throw it hurt or doesn't matter where he will fucking be there to the bitter death until the referee decides it's not going to go in any further. But said it the last time after Joshua's last fight, after Wilder's last fight, he is constantly, and he's won my respect, I must admit, because I remember speaking to Peter Fury about him once. Matt, you were probably there at the time, we were talking about his flaws, especially in a defensive sense, but Matt said the defensive flaws are still there, but it's the offensive tools that's going to make it interesting, because all he's got to do, jab and move, make Joshua come to him. Joshua will bite on every single fucking feint, waiting for that right hand, right? He's just got to feint it with him, and this is the right time. Maybe drop it to. I think you're going to drop it to the body, and then bring it upstairs, and take Joshua out with it. But he's got that chance, and I say that after his last fight, he is criminally underrated by many, and usually they're Matchroom fucking fanboys or fangirls, we want to call them. But you need to start putting a wee bit of respect in that man's work, by the way, because it says if he can't win a fight, he will be there to the fucking bitter end trying to win it. And he was true to his word in the day against Fury, and that you'll need to kill me to get me out of there. And that's practically almost what happened there. So
people treat him still treat him like the guy who was windmilling against Audley Harrison, and
I know
they're not the same. The only thing that's the same for those fighters is that wicked right hand.
He's refined for that. Guy. He's definitely refined for that. I mean, the jab alone, as I says, mate, he could easily do what Helenius did there last night. If Helenius is causing Joshua all those problems, factor in that right hand, which is the X factor. You've got a gravy train ending right at the fucking next stop.
Well, and you just got to devil it up and put the right hand behind it, and Joshua's going to be out of position. He doesn't do well going back whatsoever,
and he can't handle movers. So I say Joshua just Wilder just pops a jab, steps to the side, pops
and
a
those
jab,
Wilder shots are so unorthodox as well, Andy. They catch him around the ears, the head, the back of the neck. That's just kryptonite. And he's got the reach, mate.
He's got a freakishly low reach.
Yeah,
that's the other thing as well. So
it pisses me off the disrespect that Deontay Wilder gets. And that they just dub him as this, like you said, this wild, this guy just wings in punches and he's no technique and he's no boxing IQ. And I replied to a tweet last night about something similar, just saying that Deontay Wilder is shit. Well, I'll tell you what, if he is shit, then I hate to see what is worse than him, because, like we said, he's got a fantastic right hand. His jab is legit as well. It's not just this crappy little thing. It's a proper weapon. And the guy sets his shots up as well. It's not just, pot luck, the way he's knocked out 42 of 42 KOs in 43 fights. Some of them, early on, fine, but he's beaten some decent fights. Look at the way he knocked out Dominic Breazeale. That was not just a random shot from Norway. That was a proper right hand. And regardless of what Luis Ortiz is or however old he is, Luis Ortiz at the time when Deontay Wilder boxed him, that guy was avoided. He was signed to Matchroom, so ultimately Joshua didn't need to fight him, and Hearn controlled him.
I agree. That's a disingenuous argument. I saw that guy replying to you. Sorry, Ozzy.
Yeah, and I couldn't believe it. I thought, hang on, at the time, Ortiz, no one stepped up to box Ortiz whatsoever, and it was incredibly difficult, for people to get him a fight. And Wilder did lose rounds to Ortiz, and he was hurt. But look at the way he finished the fight. It was brutal, absolutely brutal. So again, for a guy who's apparently awful, Ortiz from a boxing ability, he's probably a level above. But overall, as a fighter, Deontay Wilder is better. And he came through that, and then in the rematch as well, it was even more, even more conclusive. And let's have it right, in the Tyson Fury fights, particularly the first one was a bit of a, it wasn't as good in all honesty, but the second and third fights, yes, he was outclassed and he was beaten, but he was there until the end. And that third fight was one of the best fights I've ever seen. It was unbelievable.
Well, how many people are that dangerous when they're that hurt? Like, there's very few people who can do that when they barely know where they are.
Exactly.
And there was one punch he landed on Fury. It had that rippling effect on him. That knocks out any other. It knocks out any other man. If it's no Tyson Fury.
Yeah. Absolutely. And they say, he's ducked everybody and this and that. People forget Deontay Wilder signed to go over to Russia to box Alexander Povetkin. It was only that did Povetkin pop for a test or something like that?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Wilder had moved over here just to kind of taper off his camp before flying to Russia as well.
Yeah, and he was going over.
I was curious how many slips they were going to call in that fight before Povetkin could no longer get up.
Yeah, exactly. So the hate Deontay Wilder gets, it's just disrespectful. There are far, far worse world champions who, no disrespect, to a level below. And I can list it, but people used to bum over Anthony Crolla because he was a nice guy and this and that. Don't even compare, like in terms of ability. Wilder is levels above Crolla, but people used to love Anthony Crolla. Oh, it's great, he's a world champion, he's done this and does that. Well, sorry, the hate Wilder gets, from a guy who, certainly didn't have it all his own way, coming through. He turned over. And I don't care about those those wins where he was knocking out bums on the way up. Fine. But he was doing it in the right way. And he was active. He was boxing. I'm just looking at in 2009, Deontay, I know it's a while ago. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He had 8 fights.
Yeah, coming right out of the Olympics. Yep.
Yeah, they all went one round. But good, they're active. We always say all about, activity, and that's exactly what he did. And yeah, did it take him a while to step up the levels? Yeah, it did. But once he did that, he boxed Bermain Stavern, and let's have it right. A lot of people fancied Bermain Stavern in that fight to go and beat Deontay Wilder, and Wilder showed that he wasn't, in inverted commas, a one-trick.
Him for 12.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And then what did he do in the rematch? He had no respect for him, and he just obliterated him in a round. So it really grates on me the disrespect Deontay Wilder gets. He's not only, he's one of the most exciting. Steve mentioned about Anthony Joshua being in exciting fights. Blink and you miss it with Deontay Wilder because he has got that power, and he is always in exciting fights. And he's without a doubt one of my favourite fighters in the division. And when he does call it quits, the heavyweight division will be worse off once he retires, because this is a guy that brings excitement. He brings legit power, and he's far better than just a one-trick, one-punch pony. The guy has got skills, and he's vastly underrated. For a guy that was a dominant world champion, he's vastly underrated. And it's this stigma and this tarnish from, people online and certain media outlets and promoters that just call him that. Yet you never see these promoters or other media outlets call for certain fights and say, oh, we'll box Deontay Wilder. They go a million miles away and ensure that they don't box Deontay Wilder.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Jamie, throwing in 199 there. He says John Boschak. We can definitely get on board with that one. Liam has made a good point finally. He says, I love everything about Wilder. He's mad as a box of frogs. His delusional mindset is a real weapon, whereas AJ is a broken man living in reality. That is a good, concise way of summing up my thoughts on the whole situation. A shout out to Robert Helenius, aka Rapping Rob Kelly, who's jumped in on the call. You're very welcome tonight, Rob. I'm going to hit you with a question straight off the bat here. So whenever Dillian White popped, allegedly, we don't know, they were looking at Gerald Washington. Chisora's name was bandied about. Dempsey McKean, Filip Hrgovic. Eventually, they landed on Robert Helenius. Des, always good for a good comment, Rob, jumped in with this one. He said, one for Steve and possibly Dominic. It never hurt Richie ever to get in his rocky moment against Junior Jones in Manchester. Never hurt Leon Spinks getting his chance against Ali. Gavin Rees against Mbai. Naz against Belcastro. The sport, Rob, is littered with fighters seizing the moment. When a door closes for one, it opens for another. I'm amazed Sky haven't thrown Fraser Clark in. That's the kind of attitude that would have benefited of this opportunity. But we ended up with Helenius, Rob.
No, I think Ben Shalom doesn't know what the fuck he's doing anyway, does he? And I think Eddie would be reluctant to go that route on a different promotion. especially last minute, like with AJ. I think they carefully selected Robert Helenius actually, like the fucking, and he probably did better than they expected. I think any of the guys mentioned in that, Dempsey, McKean, Hargovich, on last night's performance, would they have done any worse than Robert Helenius? And if they'd have done better than him, they'd have been in a real shot of winning the fight. Eddie says Deontay's going to sleep. Well, he just has to show him the first 6 rounds of the fucking fight last night, and he'll definitely go to sleep because it was horrific. And look, maybe I'm getting more fucking compassionate in my old age, but I'm actually a bit concerned about Anthony Joshua. I think Tony Bellew outdid himself last night on commentary with some of the worst, literally the worst co-coms performance that I can remember on record. Like, so biased towards Anthony Joshua, but Barry Jones and Andy Lee were the only ones there with talking a bit of sense, saying he needs another 2 fights before you can even think about putting him in with Deontay Wilder. And I think they're going for the cash out. I think it's fairly obvious if Robert Helenius is out jabbing you for portions of the fight and leaving your face bloody, and they're making every excuse in the book on DAZN for you live, saying he needs rounds, and he's countering it, asking about people booing, saying have they ever boxed before, and he was setting them up and all this. If Helenius had been fit last night to go past 6 rounds, you would have given him hell down the back straight, because he was starting to blow, he was starting to get tired. I think Andy Lee was right. Who was the listener? Someone said Rob Kelly bingo, Andy Lee, Wexford. Well, you got in early tonight. I think they're right in saying that they're trying to like change his style. He's 33 years of age. Like, he was trying to lead with a lot of check hooks, a lot of kind of Charlo-esque stuff last night. And like, I think mentally he's shot. Like, that whole thing at the press conference, I don't think he's like trying to be tough. I just think he doesn't actually know what to say. When he jumped out of the ring, when he answered a question about the division on his back, it's all contrived or off the wall madness. Like, there's no in between. And I think Eddie and all them see the cash out coming, like, and they're going to rush that Deontay Wilder fight if they can, because any other heavyweight has a shot at beating him now. It's over for him, like, and I think it's going to end badly, like with him fucking flatlined against Wilder. So I'm sure he can fall on his big pile of money that he's going to get, but he's going to need it, because I think he's finished at the top for sure. He was never that good to begin with. It was overhyped. He was well matched. It was oversold, but it's starting to really show up. Hadn't had a knockout in 7 fights or something like that before last night, and the guys he's knocked out are Povetkin and Pulev, way past their best, and Robert Helenius. So what fucking chances he got against Wilder? You have to nail him down. Like, so even if he catches him, you'd have to think he's going to blow. And can he finish Wilder? Wilder has shown he can get up time and time again, like, and come back even more dangerous. So worrying times for Joshua.
Worrying times for Joshua indeed, Andy. You've alerted me to this one. Dr. Boxing 1 says, cannot stand Hatman beats and icons, Matchroom agents. Also McGregor sucking up to Joshua, embarrassing shite. Hey, Bellew and Aid arse licking AJ constantly. Be dead funny if Wilder ices AJ. Does that fight happen though, Andy?
Sorry, I was chatting away there. Actually, I was on mute. Yeah, well, as I was saying there, I think if Joshua is really wanting to get himself back into the world title mix and that, then it's the obvious fight to make, mate. I mean, Wilder, I just checked that he's ranked 1 with the WBC and WBA. I think he's 4th with IBF, but Ozzy was mentioning that Hergovich fight was meant to be a final eliminator, so that'll be on the backwater. So, yeah, look, if it, that's his options, I would say Wilder would be it. I mean, there's nothing else there really is going to move the needle. Obviously, if he's wanting to fight twice more before fighting Wilder, then it's going to be a European level opponents he's got to be facing next. So you're looking at, like, say, a Kabayel, potentially Bacoli. I don't know about the big guy in Canada, Big Mahmudov, if they'd fancy it. They would stay. I think they would stay well clear Otto Wallen.
Yeah, he's supposed to be fighting Gassiev in Turkey, they were saying, in the Nutters group.
All right, Murat Gazev. Obviously,
Yeah.
he's limited to where he can fight these days, actually, as well.
Yeah.
And obviously, Eddie doesn't do business with ESPN, so you can maybe forget about Jagbuzz and who was the other guy, Anderson. So yeah, there's no great there. So unless, as I say, if he's serious about world titles next or soon, Wilder's a fight to go for, because I can guarantee or be pretty much certain or convinced that would be a final eliminator to either face Fury and or Usyk for their belts at that point.